Well, my name is Robert Newman. I am here with Joe Manausa. He is the founder and lead partner in a company out in Tallahassee, a real estate brokerage that currently has 20 agents. And I couldn't be more excited, Joe, to have you on the InboundREM YouTube channel. I have featured your website, which I just revealed to you before we went live, many times in actually more than one of my reviews, now that I think about it. But today we're going to talk about Sierra Interactive, and Joe has been kind enough to agree to join me. Joe, before I go any further, would you do me a favor and introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, I'm Joe Manausa. I've been in the business since 1991. My Manausa.com site I set up in 1995, but I didn't really get serious about digital until 2007. I have done a daily blog every weekday since July 1st, 2007, and it's generates a couple million a year in revenue. So we got good traffic coming to our site. We dominate the local search. We're working hard. We've hired Robert to help us with more of the local search offsite with the Google My Business profile. So I'm a big believer in digital marketing in real estate.
And that is how I originally came across Joe, is actually the fact that Joe was already, when I found him 7 or 8 years ago, we first met, I think, through the Active Rain blogging system, Ecosphere, if I remember correctly. Does that sound right to you?
Sounds right.
And then I discovered that Joe was a prolific blogger on that platform. He already was doing content on his website. He already had a hyper-local market, which in this case was Tallahassee. A lot of the advice that I give to agents, Joe, about marketing themselves, because I'm an SEO guy, you were already doing when I found you. And if I remember correctly, at the time that I found you, you were in the process of moving from maybe Real Estate Webmasters over to Sierra Interactive. Does that sound about right to you?
That's probably in that ballpark era.
Okay. So we're going to talk about Sierra Interactive today, everybody. This is in addition to, so I have always had one of the top Sierra Interactive reviews that's been available, because what I've done in the past is logged into a platform, Joe, and I've reviewed every single feature. I mean, every button and everything that was there, all the way from the advertising to lead tagging to the call system to all of it. I've already granularly taken a look at it. So I think my first question is, I did that granular look in 2020. And as a customer of Sierra Interactive from 2020 to today, because I always say this to people at large, and I want to see what you think. I always say it's rare that a CRM or company updates their UI or their UX in any significant way year to year, unless they're going to do a major overhaul. Generally speaking, the features that are improved are things like integrations. Do you agree with that or not?
Yeah, for sure. I'm working off the same architecture as I was in 2016, 17, whenever we came over to Sierra. It's the previous owner sold it about a year ago. But the previous owner was awesome. I mean, I had the CEO on I could call him, email him anytime I wanted. Very responsive. Knew that websites are never current. They're always trailing. They're, the technology that puts a website on the internet is evolving very rapidly. And what used to be considered a really good site is now slow and sluggish and needs updates. And Sierra is very dusty right now.
All right. So, and I agree with you, but the reason that I ask you to do this review, so for everybody watching, is that I absolutely have, like, Joe's probably one of the top 5 guys that I've ever had a chance to talk to that is an actual real estate entrepreneur. His digital knowledge, his discipline, what he's tried, the fingers in pies. So let's talk about that briefly. at one point when many years ago, you had allowed me access, or maybe you forgot that you'd given it to me in the first place, to some of your marketing reports. And I actually stayed in that loop for well over a year. And for a long time, you had multiple channels of which SEO always seemed to be the winner. Can you tell, and that was all with your Sierra Interactive website.
Yeah.
Is that still the case?
Yeah, the best bang for the buck is SEO. I do not, at the present time, do any offsite SEO except for a little active rain love. That's about it. But I used to be very heavily into producing incoming links and stuff like that. A lot of different services. Robert offers a great service for that. But no, SEO is our number one ROI lead source. And it's also our number one lead source in pure bulk. So best ROI and most number of leads.
So with Sierra Interactive, let's talk about them specifically. So we can see the numbers, and I already know everybody that his commitment to the site isn't quite what it used to be. But then again, Sierra Interactive hasn't really kept up to speed with where the market is going, in my opinion. That's my opinion. One of the things that I have a complaint about, Joe, which we did not talk about prior to turning on the camera, is that I don't think they've kept up with the mobile revolution, turning a site into like a thing that works like an app on your phone. How do you feel about that comment?
Yeah, their mobile technology is state of the art 2018. And if you could see look at the traffic right there, right where your mouse is, note where it starts to die off. That's when the new owners took over. I'm not sure what they were doing because they haven't changed anything other than the owners, but that's about right when they came in, and it's to 2023. And my traffic's slowing down greatly. And there's other things that are contributing to that. Obviously, there's not as many people searching for real estate for the last year and a half either. The market's definitely cooled off quite a bit, but that right there kind of says it all.
And in terms of lead capture, like percentage of traffic, because at one point, one of my favorite things about you is you tracked almost everything. You tracked, like, if I asked you lead acquisition, you actually knew where your leads were coming from.
Yeah.
And who is converting and all, and I could ask you any marketing question I wanted and you had an answer for it. So right now, lead conversion for your Sierra Interactive website, has that changed over the last few years? Conversion rate?
The rates have not changed. I would say that, I don't spend the same amount of money on marketing. I don't drive as much traffic to it. So if anything, I would say our conversion rates picked up. The number of conversions is down, but the rate of conversion is up because we're really dealing with a lot more truly organic traffic. My philosophy was always my number one objective. Like if you talk to the typical real estate agent, they'll tell you they want ready leads. I want people ready to buy or sell right now. Okay. And I've always felt that was a stupid goal, because if you're getting them right now, that means somehow they managed to go online, do all their own research. They managed to look at homes over and over again on Zillow or wherever and not get hounded by realtors. And yet somehow they're still available. I don't believe in that. I want to find them at the beginning. The typical buyer is going to take 9.5 months from the time they start looking at homes online till the time they close, or based on my measurements anyway. It's about a 9.5 month gestation cycle. And so what I want to do is meet them at the beginning. I want to hold their hand through the early part. I want to give them the answers that those early people are, because the early people aren't really looking at homes. They're trying to decide, do I want to buy a house? Do I want to rent? Do I want to move to this city or that city? They're all over the place. And what I want to do is forge a relationship at that stage. So when they transition to the middle stage, which is a comparison shopper, they've now made their decision on where they want to go to. They know, generally speaking, what neighborhood they want to buy in. They know, generally speaking, what their budget is. They know their minimum standards in their housing. And they're now ready in their minds to start looking at homes, even though they might still be 3 or 4 months out from pulling the trigger. I want to meet them before all of that so I can transition them through all of that. And then I don't have any worries about retention because I've created the relationship early in the cycle. And, it takes a lot of work. Working digital leads is a bear. And everyone would love to just have leads who take a ticket in their lobby and go under contract the day they walk in. I just don't think that's a realistic goal.
I couldn't agree. I may have learned some of what I've applied to InboundREM through you, or potentially I learned it prior to ever meeting you when I was leading the agent image SEO team. But I will say this one way or the other, my data has matched what you just described as the customer relationship arc. When it comes to inbound marketing, what I really love about this type of effort is that you catch people so far upstream, nobody is even fishing in the river at the same place that you are. And when you catch them that early and create a relationship, by the time they're ready to shop, especially if you have a strong like you're trying to educate people about very specific marketplaces or little niches inside the marketplace. Like with you, it's all of Tallahassee. But like one of the very first markets we ever talked about was Killern Lakes, which is a very specific neighborhood inside your specific city. I just feel like if I was shopping for a home in Tallahassee, I'm going to you, because there's no way that Zillow and the way that they run their business is going to give me anybody that's as specific or as knowledgeable as you in those areas. I've always felt that way. Even though you have a sales team and it's not you running the lead yourself, you obviously built a business off being incredibly knowledgeable. I don't know if that bears out, but you're saying it does bear out. It is one of the very few places I feel is an opportunity for real estate professionals, because Zillow, as we discussed prior to turning on the camera, they've kind of won the search game. They really have. Like, they are building a tool that is really efficient. So when you asked me the question before we went live, hey, does your WordPress IDX search tool work as well as Zillow? And I said no equivocation, because there is none to be had. It doesn't matter what tool you look at, Joe, in my opinion. It's IDX Showcase, IDX Broker, iHome Finder, Buying Buddy. There's hundreds and hundreds of search tools, and not a single one is doing something better than Zillow is for search, for property search, which means that we got to look somewhere else. Now, I'm curious to know here, I've tried 2 videos on your site and they both appear to be broken. The home.
I can tell you what. Yeah, I changed these pages lately. I wonder if, yeah, I got to go look at that.
I was going to have a question about the CRM, not the CRM, the content management system. This is the search that we get. And by the way, Joe, all of us, myself included, what we do is we tend to follow in the footsteps of Trulia, because that's what you're looking at from the UX and UI perspective. This is a Trulia page that you and I are looking at. They came up with this design. All of us, myself included, we follow along, because it's like the McDonald's of the search experience. Like, everybody's used to it, familiar with it. And from the user behavior psychology, you want people to be familiar with your search tool. That way they're not frustrated when they come to it. You just want them to be able to use it and find what they want. So I actually think that this is good. I actually would give this a strong thumbs up. How do you feel about it as the owner of the website?
As a guy about to turn 60, I can tell you I don't do much on my phone. I'm much more of a computer user, and their property search tool is great on the desktop. It's fine. It's the mobile search that's getting me the most complaints from our customers. And it's not like they're complaining as much as they're saying, hey, can you send me that link on Zillow instead? You know, those kind of things, because the mobile solution is just not that attractive.
I got you. So you'd give this good marks on desktop, but bad marks on mobile.
Yeah, and I haven't looked at my stats lately, but I believe about 68, 69% of my visitors are mobile visitors. So, you know, almost 70%. So mobile first used to be a really nice feature. Now it's a necessity.
Right. I agree with that too. When you produce a new page of content like this one, the new construction, which is your top page for a broad keyword. This is currently your top page. You still rank for the keyword new construction for sale in Tallahassee. This is the page that you produced, which is pretty common for CR Interactive. It's usually a search feature in the middle of some content. but you have added a lot of elements to that content. You've added this graphic drop, you've put in some verbal content, you've added an image, another graphic drop. How easy or hard, how would you rank your ability to build these pages?
Um, they're very easy. They're modular in Sierra. Now, when I say easy, I have a degree in computer science. It's 40 years old, so that basically means I'm good with Excel and Word. You can drop new modules in anywhere you want. You want to drop a content section, boom, easy to do. You want to add a title section, boom, a video. So you just build out the page, and it's as easy as WordPress to
Okay,
build new stuff. So I definitely like their design from that standpoint.
beautiful. Okay, and then some of the features that I reviewed, and I sent you a list prior to like starting the review, and I'm just gonna pick a couple of things randomly because I don't want to
Sure.
keep you forever on this. I just want to hit a few points. So you're currently using Follow Up Boss, and I know why because you told me why. But would you mind sharing with the audience like how that all worked out for you and why are you using Follow Up Boss as a CRM as opposed to CRM Track?
Yeah, I used Follow Up Boss with WordPress all the way up till probably around 2014, 15, somewhere around that time. I switched from WordPress to Real Estate Webmasters, but I already had Follow Up Boss up and running. So I just kept using that. And then when we switched to Sierra, I don't think they had the CRM working at the time, or if it was very rudimentary. And
Mhm.
so I just stuck with Follow Up Boss, and I've got 134,000 people in Follow Up Boss now, and I'm in a market that only has 130,000 homes. So, I've got a large database, and what you will find is the CRM will own you after a period of time because you can't really switch your CRM. You lose tons and tons and tons of information. You can set up the name, address, phone number pretty easily. But all the notes and all the history, I mean, we're closing deals. We just closed a deal the other day that we originated in 2011. It came in. So I say we work our digital leads a long time, but they first came in 2011, and you can go back and go to the bottom of the lead and see all the follow up over all the years, and they finally came through. So 14-year conversion. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, but
That's a heck of a I don't know who to congratulate, the salesperson, the CRM, the emails. I mean, that's
yeah,
impressive.
that's gone through a series of salespeople over the years. But I'm a big believer in forcing communication as often as you can without being obnoxious. It's not and most people have it backwards. They basically are calling, going, "Hey, are you ready to buy or sell?" And we're calling to talk to them about how we can help them. Hey, what can we do right now to help you? What, and we usually have some themes for our interactions, and obviously we switched a lot more to text now than phone calls. But yeah, we're trying to add value. Our goal is 100 touches a year per lead we're working, and
Nice.
that could be as simple as going in and putting a comment in on a Facebook post. It doesn't have to be a conversation. It's just have them think about you 100 times a year.
Now you're doing a like you're doing a multi-touch strategy. When what I mean by that is that not only do you have a salesperson, but you're also sending out emails and doing digital touches on top of like training and requiring your salespeople to also do physical touches. Do I have that's my impression.
Yes.
Did I
Yeah.
get that right?
Yeah. I personally will touch each person in the database 24 to 30 times a year through newsletter distributions and a weekly send out regarding the video I created and a couple other little things that we do. But for the salesperson, the goal is be the realtor until they need a realtor.
And how often do you think your sales, like you've already said, hey, my salespeople are using Follow Up Boss. So if you're using Follow Up Boss, they're not necessarily in Sierra Interactive, which means that a lot of these features, agent accountability as an example, or meta tags and SEO, which is more of a you thing as opposed to a sales team thing. Um, do you think that anybody is in there in Sierra Interactive using, let's say, the hunter feature in here where you can track like a lead's footsteps as they search or use a property? Do you think anybody's in Sierra Interactive using that feature?
I am very confident they are not.
Okay.
It's, I'm a big believer in everybody use one system, and then we can all learn from each other and optimize our use of it. And there's nothing wrong. Well, I don't know anything about the CRM. I've never been interested in looking into it. Every once in a while they release a new feature and all that, but almost everything they're releasing you can do inside a follow-up boss. So it's just, I don't believe in running two CRMs. There's a lot of lead people selling leads that they have their own CRM. And I always tell them, if we can't make it work with Zapier or something like that, I'm not going to be interested. I just can't have multiple dashboards open. I've already got 60 Chrome tabs open. I don't need 61,
Couldn't agree with every single thing that you said more. Running call centers and the amount of noise and smoke that is in the real estate industry about CRMs. It's a customer record management system, and generally it's only as good as the person who, like, the hands of whose hands is that tool in. Like,
yeah,
most real estate salespeople, like 80% that I've met, barely use their CRM. 80%. So that 20% that does use it, that generally consistency is more important than anything else.
I can go with the back end of Sierra. I can go in the back end of Follow Up Boss and tell you when everybody's logged in last.
Yeah, and everybody's logging in more frequently with Follow Up Boss if they log in at all. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd say there's a lot of people that have never logged into Sierra, because the one thing that is very good about Sierra is it's a two-way communication. So a new lead gets generated on a source outside of Sierra. It's interactive with Follow Up Boss, and the lead gets added to Sierra, and vice versa. Someone signs up on Sierra, it automatically goes in Follow Up Boss. And what's great about that is no matter where they signed up from, one of our first contacts is saying, hey, there's a much better property search tool. It's updated every 15 minutes, got the most current listings on the market. You ought to give it a look. And so we drive a lot of our leads to our Sierra site, even though they were generated elsewhere.
Gotcha. All right. And like, in broad, so you came on board 5-6 years ago, said that it was the newest, greatest thing, and like, when you first signed up with Sierra, if I asked you to just kind of generally speaking rate it on a 0 to 10 scale, 10 being the best, 0 being the worst, what would you have rated as a user of this website and platform? How would you have rated Sierra Interactive when you first bought them?
8 or a 9, with no other company being above a 7.
Okay.
I was very, very happy with my choice. And a year later, I was still very, very happy. 4 years later, I was very, very happy. It was just when they sold the company, their commitment to support declined. I used to send in a support request, and then they'd have this automatic email kicks back going, hey, we got your request. We'll get to it as soon as we can. And invariably, within 30 minutes, some support person had reached out and said what they had done. Now, when I send a support request to Sierra, their thing comes back and says, we'll be back to you within 24 hours. And sometimes they do.
So what would you give? What would you rate them now? After they sold and after the services changed, what would you rate them currently?
Maybe a 3. And the only reason I'm still with them is I've got a site with millions of pages. As you well know, it ain't easy to move. And I want to go back to WordPress. I think with what Zillow has been able to do with the property search tool, my goal is get people to my site in some way, whether it's articles about buying and selling, whether it's articles about specific neighborhoods, whether it's housing reports on the US housing market. I don't care how I get them there, but I want to throw my search tool in their face while they're there.
Sure.
Because generally speaking, it's been my experience, people just want to look at houses. You could write an award-winning article, but all they really want to see is pictures of houses.
I'm going to make one teeny tiny little addendum to that. I think you've been at this for a long time, Joe, and I don't think you realize how strong of an informational brand that you present, because here's what I would supposition. I don't disagree with you. You get past the I'm getting to know you hurdle, and yes, all people want to do is look at houses. Agree with you 100%. Where I disagree with you slightly is you do have to get past the hurdle. Your website just does that very well. Like, you have to show them that you yourself, whether you're an agent or you're a broker, you've got to really establish credibility, because if people are using your search tool, they probably know intellectually or intuitively that they may not be getting as good of a search experience. But there's still a lot of people that are going to choose to do that. And why would they do that? Because they
Trust, yeah.
trust you. They trust you. And they trust you more than they trust Zillow. And that's what a lot of the game, in my opinion, comes back to. Like, it's who wins the trust game. Like you, Zillow, and because they'll use you. And by the way, for everybody watching and for you, Joe, the reason I asked you to do this show with me, or this review, is because I want to continue to help you push forward on the trust bit. You know, I have a reputation of understanding technology, and I'm telling everybody that you're one of my experts. So, you know, when it comes to who do you trust, it is like it to be on the cutting edge of digital. You've already developed a reputation for doing that, which means that whatever search tool you're proposing that people use on your website, you trust it. And thus people should trust you and your choice. That's my thought, at least. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I feel like I might be right. I think we've done a fairly good job, because all the technical stuff I've already covered in other reviews. Is there anything else that you would like to say about, like, you've used Sierra Interactive now for 7 years. You've clearly identified that you felt like service dropped off when they sold the company about a year ago. So is there anything else that you'd like to say about the website to other realtor agents or brokers that might watch this video?
I would tell every agent out there, if you're not using digital marketing as a way to grow your own personal brand, you're just going to be transactional. You know, so many people in real estate they're one-trick ponies. You know, they network, they hang out at church or bars or wherever, and they get to know a lot of people, and that's their prospecting method, and it can be a very effective if you're high energy. But if you take the time to slowly build a great digital site, you know, and I would go with WordPress, and then I would talk to future me about not switching away from WordPress. And maybe a lot of people don't understand this, but when it's a WordPress site, you own and manage the data. And while you might not know how to own and manage data, you need to know that as soon as you conform to somebody else's architecture, they kind of own the data. I mean, I own the website, I own the data, but now they want me to pay them to give me regular backups. I do offsite backups every 6 months in case something happens to their company. I don't want to lose, 15 years worth of work. And with the new owners, they're like, yeah, we can put in a report for that. Well, you want to bid on how much that's going to cost you? And I'm like, yeah, that was part of the package I signed up for. With WordPress, you can do a backup by clicking a button. So again, my site is almost impossible to switch back to a WordPress site, short of spending almost $100,000 to do it. And so, it's just I would go WordPress, and that means there's going to be a bigger learning curve than if they go with one of these package sites, because these package sites are easier to use, in my opinion. But you take the time to learn a little bit about WordPress, you can turn it into a full-scale business.
Obviously, I agree with you. I've made these decisions for myself and for customers, and I've been giving out this advice for a long time. I think that's one of the reasons you started to pay attention to me in the first place. As I was saying these things 8, 9 years ago, and I felt these things for 16 years. And a lot of what you just said is why I established, why I went, like, I'm a multi-entrepreneur. I didn't want to be an agency owner in the real estate space. I opted to do that because I felt like the bar, like the information being given to realtors, was so atrocious that I had to do something. Like, I had to talk to them about ownership of information. Yeah, the Zillow exists because as long as somebody else was going to do the work, realtors were happy to give away all of their labor. It is a real estate agent that goes out and collects the data on the property, the pictures, posts the original description. I can go on and on. That's an agent, or maybe somebody in the inspection business, but one way or the other, it's somebody. And that data then gets shipped off to platforms now who then take ownership of it once it's on the platform, which is insane to me, Joe. It's absolutely mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, I stood up at the board of realtors, gosh, 15, 20 years ago. And this was when they were still working through the court system on the IDX process. And I said, look, these listings are our information. We should make the portals pay for it. I go, Zillow wants our, and I don't even know if Zillow existed back then. It was probably Realtor.com. If Realtor.com wants our information, they should buy it. I said, we're the one aggregating all this information. I mean, they almost threw rocks at me. They're like, you're not taking care of your client. Your client, the more sites you're on, the better chance you have of selling a home. And I'm like, well, you probably don't have any data to support that, number one. Number two, there's nothing that prohibits us from doing this. But if you give away your information long enough, won't they be able to cut you out of the process? And they just went on deaf ears.
Yeah, back when it was a big sales game because all the Hotjar and all these other websites, data aggregators basically sold everybody on this beautiful term called listing syndication. That was what it was 16 years ago, which was basically give us your data for free, but we'll post it to our website. Like it was the greatest scam I've ever really seen. It's like Craigslist or other services where you just, everybody creates the value of the service because they're willing to post for free. Of course they're willing to post for free. They need your data. So crazy.
Yeah.
Joe, I can't even begin to say how much I appreciate you being willing to take some of your valuable time and talk to me a little bit about CR Interactive. Even though it probably seemed like it was that way, everybody who's watching the show or watching this review, I got tired of telling people that things have changed. Everything that Joe has said, I've already said about CR on other reviews, but this time you're hearing it from a CR Interactive client. So I felt like it would carry extra weight. If you would like to learn more about Joe, you can go to Manausa.com, but it is spelled MANAUSA.com.
One of my great grandfather, when crossing the border from Canada to the U.S., they said, "What is your name?" And his last name was like Monasone. And he says, "I am a man of the USA." And they said, "How do you spell that?" He said, MANA USA. So that's where my name comes from.
Beautiful. So we're going to go offline here, ladies and gentlemen. Leave me a like, leave me a comment, go to his website if you know or are yourself in the market for a property inside Tallahassee. Also, for those of you who might be looking for somebody who really knows what they're doing in terms of digital marketing, please do us all a favor. Go to Joe's website, because I really do think he knows what he's doing, and I think his results speak for themselves. And last but not least, if you're looking for a new career and you happen to be in that area, and if Joe thinks you can measure up to his extremely high standards, perhaps give him a call and see if you can get a job. With no further ado, we'll catch you the next time.